Good evening, peace to everybody, man. Tuning into the Science for Sean episode. I just wanted to kind of go live real quick before I call it a night, man. Please like the show, share the show, tell a friend, tell a friend. I haven't shared the show with anybody at all. I just hit the like button, the live button. So I'm pretty sure not a lot of people are going to tune into it, but got some data that I wanted to go over with everybody. We'll kind of walk through with those of you who may pay attention to the actual work, just to keep you abreast of what the science is saying. I think that is very important, especially in the middle of a pandemic and a new variant rolling around is dominating the airways and social media in general. So we need to make sure that we can understand the data and what the science is saying, especially when it comes to the vaccines and how they're protecting, or if they are protecting at all, against Omicron. So I was actually waiting on some information like this because it's a determining factor into answering the question that I've been asked prior to today, and I've had conversations about with Unc, and that is regarding if I'm going to boost it or not, if I'll get a booster shot or not. So, what we're gonna do is we're gonna deal with the science. We're gonna deal with the science. So, please again like the show, share the show. I know all my guys that support the Dagger Squad, and I know y'all ain't tuning into it. I just be sending y'all the link, but for those of you who might hop on, you know what I'm saying, much respect. But I know if it ain't religious or something like that, y'all really ain't interested. Y'all try to stick to what y'all argue with every day, pretty much, and pretty much not abreast to what the science is saying and swaying. So, um, give me 1 second and I'm gonna get it going. Like I said, I don't. What's up, Keenan? What's good with you, man? You're always in the building. I know a lot of people ain't gonna be in it, so uh, even my own crew, they might catch the replay though. That's cool if they catch it. They gonna say, man, you've been doing a lot of shows. They're gonna come up with an excuse. You've been doing a lot of shows, man, so I can't keep up. Blah blah blah. You know what I'm saying? You ain't doing nothing. All right, so let me get this on the screen real bright. And I don't care who in here, man. We just gonna walk through it together. All right. So let's get it in, man. Let's learn a thing or two. Let's see if this study is going to help me be able to answer my question regarding if I want a booster shot or not, or if you may consider a booster shot, or if you find it useful for you at all, or um you just want to wait a little bit. We'll see. Or maybe you ain't even got vaccinated yet, and this might be able to help you make a determining, uh, answer that determining question for you. But hold on 1 second though. Let me try something real quick. Real quick, like, yeah, man. I hope everybody appreciated the like I said, Ben's bill early this morning, and then what I just did this evening as far as the show on the Master Warrior Clan channel. We need all the support we can get, especially on that channel. Um and the Kofi Pie Research Team channel. We outnumbered, you know what I mean? We outnumbered, and we trying to fight for the info, the hearts and minds of our people, so with accurate information and stuff. So hopefully people appreciate it. I know it's kind of impromptu and late, and it's all good. I mean, I understand people got relationships and lives, and they might be at the club, or you never know with people, right? Or somebody else might be live. I don't know. Somebody else live. Somebody else might be live though. For real, for real. Who live right now? That be determining factor. Ah, okay. That's why. Yeah. Yeah, that's why. I saw over there with the crazy dudes. That's why. Okay, cool. This gonna be good for me then. I told you. Everybody with the shenanigans. How long they been live? 2 hours? Oh yeah. All right, let me go ahead. Let me do me. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? People love that shit. That's what I thought. Yeah, y'all rock with the pseudo. Y'all rock with the pseudos. All right, let me do my thing, man. So, SARS CoV-2 variants of concern and variants under investigation in England. This is a technical briefing update on hospitalizations and vaccine effectiveness for Omicron. All right. So, this just lets you know it's for real that I'm dealing with a briefing that was held on the 23rd, but this was published on the 31st, but it was available to us today. So, I know most people, they don't really get into all of that. And I like my information right now. I'm not gonna argue with people over something that they don't study or know or anything like that, and or claim to have information for something and then they don't. So they can miss me with that. No offense to them, but I know y'all don't read and study though. You know what I'm saying? So I don't understand why they trying to do that. All right. So there's a reason why I do what I do. It's a reason why I do what I do. And I told y'all by the end of 2021 that I was gonna piss off more people than I make happy. Like for real. Like and I'm gonna continue to do it. This all 2022. I'm gonna be worse than the end of 2021. To me, none of don't nobody know nothing. That's how I'm rocking. Show me what you know. Demonstrate it. Don't gossip. All right, so here's the breakdown of what we're gonna get into. I don't know how long I'm gonna be able to do this, but I'm gonna rock it for as long as possible. Long as I got one person, or if I got 50 people, or if I got 100, I'm gonna do me. All right. So let me go ahead and control the flow real quick. Uh, I have somebody asking me something real quick. All right, so we got the latest data on Omicron, and that's what we're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Now, I really don't expect nobody to hop up in here, man. Um, that's a big argument. You got one person in there with six people who don't study Africa. And I'm gonna say Unc don't study it. Not to the degree, not to the degree where he can have a command for what's going on culturally and what all the teachings are across the continent. He don't do that. He has limitations in his studies. So um he's gotta that's why I said you just gotta draw a line and you gotta leave those dudes over there where they at, and you gotta separate everybody else from that. And then you know what I mean? You let the balance come into play. But Omicron cases, hospitalizations, and deaths, studies of hospitalizations and vaccine effectiveness. So we're going to look at two studies. Study one is the risk of hospitalizations, and study two is the vaccine effectiveness against symptomatic infection and hospitalization, which are important. And then we'll get into cases, hospitalizations, and vaccine effectiveness. And then I don't have to get into the sources for this at all, but it will be available. Hey, Pure Bro, look, listen, bro. I appreciate you, and I appreciate both of y'all, you and Keenan, for pulling up on me. But man, listen, I know tonight ain't the night. You know what I mean? If you want to go listen to the noise, bro, I totally understand. It ain't nothing against nobody. I'm just saying it's just noise. you know. Uh I'm into moving the I'm sticking to the science, bro. I'm a science advocate. I'm sticking to the science. I know what it means to do, to know and to do. So I'm gonna bore you pretty much. For real. I am. Whoever listen, I'm gonna bore you. So this report has been published to share the detailed variant surveillance analysis which contributed to Omicron risk assessment. This specialist technical briefing contains early data and analysis on emerging variants and findings have a high level of uncertainty. A separate report is published right here, which we can get our hands on, covering surveillance data on all other variants of concern. We don't need all other variants of concern right now. We're dealing with Omicron. All right. So Omicron cases, hospitalizations, and deaths. As reported on December the 29th, at this time, there were 198,348 confirmed cases of Omicron, hereafter referred to as Omicron, identified through sequences of genotype in England. So just to let everybody know, this is an England study and they went to work. This is data that's made available to us because it's going to show significance when we have more data in our regard, um, dealing with this particular variant of concern and the high infectious rate. All right. So, in 451,194 probable cases. Wow. So, identified through the S gene target failure, SGTF. This does not represent the total number of Omicron infections or cases. Approximately 30% of the community PCR tests are performed using an assay that can detect the SGTF. The SGTF accounts for 93% of the cases with an S gene test on the 29th of December. This is the number of cases which can be classified as Omicron for comparative analysis. As of the 29th of December, a total of 815 individuals with laboratory confirmed sequencing genotyping or SGTF Omicron have been admitted or transferred from emergency departments in England. Studies of hospitalizations and vaccine effectiveness. There were two studies have been undertaken which examined the association between both variant and vaccination status and the risk of hospitalization. Study one is based on the largest data set, approximately 500,000 Omicron cases, because it includes all cases diagnosed in the community and in the first day of hospitalization admissions in all age groups. Study two uses a smaller data set because it is restricted to symptomatic cases diagnosed in the community, followed by hospital admission, in part to reduce the impact of cases where coronavirus COVID-19 is incidental to the admission but detected on a routine hospital admission screening. It is restricted to ages 18 and over. The previous finding of reduced overall risk of hospitalization for Omicron compared to Delta is confirmed by the updated study one. In addition, both studies find a substantial reduction in risk of hospitalization for Omicron cases after 3 doses of vaccines compared to those who are unvaccinated, with overlapping estimate ranges. Both studies have been run on relative small numbers of hospitalized cases and will require iteration. Despite the estimated reduction in hospitalization risk and preserved vaccine effectiveness against hospitalizations, the very high number of Omicron cases means that there may still be a large number of admissions to the hospital. This is significant information when you're talking about infectivity, and this is what I was saying the other day when American Dream had posed the question that um, well, not posed the question, but made the statement that, but Sean, they said the hospitalizations are still low. You know, if anybody recall the conversation, you remember him actually saying it. And then I kept saying, well, as the more people get infected, the more of a possibility of these infections increasing, hospitalizations will rise behind that. And I said to come behind that would be deaths. And he didn't kind of understand how that works. But if you looked at the pattern of every wave, so from the onset of the pandemic, you had these waves. So when the initial wave began with the original D614G, which is the ancestral lineage of the actual first sequence genome of the virus, and y'all like the way I said that because I'm on my shit. When you had the first D614G, the ancestral lineage, sequenced, and as it moved from China to the UK and to other parts of the world, the original variant, right? The original ancestral virus, as soon as it is, I'm talking straight up coronavirus 2, Sars Cov2, original, bang, bang. Soon as it gets to where it was going, right? You saw infection rates increase gradually until what happened? They were slowly popping up, and then it was getting to where they was getting to, and then you would see, right, the numbers rise maybe a month after, because December they wasn't high. They didn't know what they was dealing with. January they was steady climbing, but not so much. By the time February hit, it was increasing, and then March comes, and then the WHO makes their announcement. The United States makes their announcement. It's ugly, right? It's ugly out there, and then the wave comes. But what happens is, in the onset of that, other variants begin to emerge, hence Alpha. Remember, Alpha then becomes the dominant variant in the world as it becomes the UK variant. Now, when it becomes the dominant, the ancestral virus, the ancestral, yeah, I can say that, ancestral virus takes a back seat. It is not as infectious or as severe as the new variant. The new variant mutated, adapted pretty quickly, and this began this course around the world, becoming a dominant variant for quite some time until you see the emergence of quote unquote Delta. So let's get back to the topic at hand. I kind of went off on a little tangent there. Kind of laughing. So study 1 is the risk of hospitalization. And an update of the analysis published last week finds a risk of presentation to emergency care or hospital admission, where Omicron was approximately half of that for Delta. There was a hazard ratio of 0.53, all right, to 0.57. The risk of hospitalization admission from emergency departments with Omicron was approximately 1/3 of that for Delta. So what they're basically saying, in the earliest onset, based on the data that they have, they didn't see as much activity as they did with Delta. What could be driving that? We may find out. See, these analyses were stratified on a date of specimen and an area of residence, and further adjusted age, sex, and ethnicity, local area and deprivation, international travel, vaccination status, etc. They are also adjusted for whether the current infection is a known reinfection, although as reinfections are substantially under ascertained, the adjustment may not fully account for the effect of reinfections. See what I'm saying? Now, in this analysis, the risk of hospitalizations is lower for Omicron cases after 2 and 3 doses of vaccine, with an 81% reduction in the risk of hospitalizations after 3 doses compared to unvaccinated Omicron cases. This is important because I'm going to say that again. From the first study, the equivalent evidence shows that the risk of hospitalizations is lower for Omicron cases after you've had a second or a third dose of the vaccine. It was 81% reduction in the risk of hospitalizations after a third vaccine. So it's between 77 and 85%. Okay. Now, unvaccinated people, of course, cases is up there, hospitalizations is up there, is pretty much that case. So people under the assumption that the breakthrough will result in hospitalizations is empty. All right. There's a high probability that you're not going to end up in the hospital. And for that night, for that 13, uh, 15 to what I say, 15 to 23% range percentile of people who may end up in the hospital is going to be very short lived. I'm gonna tell you why. Study 2 is the vaccine effectiveness against symptomatic infection and hospitalization. All right, so vaccine effectiveness against symptomatic disease continues to be lower for Omicron than for Delta, with it waning by 10 weeks after dose 3. You remember people was up in arms. Oh man, you mean to tell me after 10 weeks that the booster shot ain't really lasting? And you remember, you're hearing things like that. So listen to me closely. The vaccine effectiveness against symptomatic disease continues to be lower for Omicron than for Delta, with waning by 10 weeks after dose 3, confirming findings published last week. So symptomatic cases were then linked to hospitalization data. After 3 doses of the vaccine, the risk of hospitalization for a symptomatic case identified Omicron through community testing was estimated to be reduced by 68%, i.e., 42 to 82%, when compared to similar individuals with Omicron who were not vaccinated. After adjusting the age, gender, previous test, region, ethnicity, clinically extremely vulnerable status, risk group status, and period. Now, combine that with the protection against becoming a symptomatic case. This gives a vaccine effectiveness and hospitalization rate of what? 88%, between 78 to 93% for Omicron cases after dose 3. Although waning is seen in the effectiveness against symptomatic disease, there is insufficient data to assess the duration of protection against hospitalization, which is expected to last longer. This is essential information here in understanding that, hey, there's benefits to a third dose of the vaccine. One of those benefits is an increase in the reduction in the vaccine, not reduction, there's an increase in the vaccine's effectiveness against hospitalization. It rises. All right. So that's a point to be taken. You're good at 2. You still get that 81%, 77 to 85%. But at that 3, you're at 88% and you have a 78 to 93% coverage range. All right. So the Omicron risk assessment will be next updated on the 7th of January. So you know I'm going to be having more information on that, especially when I'll be on Chill Talk on that Friday. And we may get into that and deal with some of that information there. Now, so we're back on Omicron. Now, a new variant with a novel combination of mutations was detected on GISAID, which is a surveillance, on the 23rd of November, and they designated it the B11529 on the 24th of November, and the variant was designated the VUI on the 21st of November by the UK Health Security Agency. The variant technical group and on review redesignated a VOC21NOV01. That's what that NOV is, on the 27th of November 2021. So don't confuse the VUI 21 NOV 01 with November. You kind of, but it ain't that. Now, so you have the cases, and this chart is important. What we're about to get into, because it's been highlighted, and I want to kind of make sure that I give y'all some jewels right here regarding the chart. So hold on one second. All right. So as the data produced on the 29th of December 2021, there are 198,348 confirmed cases of Omicron, identified through sequencing the genotype, as you can see in Table 1. Of the cases tested, the presence of S gene, 95.64% had the SGTF. So here's the number of confirmed, provisional, and possible Omicron cases by region of residence as of the December 29th, 2021. All right. So the new chart shows how much protection is conferred by 1, 2, and 3 doses. All right. We just went over that previously. Now, it found out that the vaccines protect much less against catching COVID-19 with Omicron and Delta, and protection against hospitalization still remained high. So the protection against hospitalization waned over time after the second dose, but a booster shot increased it again, the figure shows. So what we're looking at is data that's going to show us how the booster rose the protection. And we talked about the increase of the third. Now, the study was based on data collected between the 27th of November to the 24th of December. All right. The formal assessment of the booster vaccine effectiveness against severe disease was then taken to play. You got to thank, what's his name? Eric Topol, director of Scripps Research, Translational Institute. I think he put out a tweet on, what was that, Friday, and I have the tweet and I'll show you. And also here go the stats. So you're looking at it on the screen, but I'm gonna kind of give it to you. One dose is 52% reduced risk of hospitalization compared to unvaccinated people. Two doses, 72% reduction, 24 weeks of the second dose. Two dose long term was 52% reduction in the risk of 24 weeks of the second dose, and three doses is 88% reduced 2 weeks after the third shot. For symptomatic disease, all vaccine brands combined. So that lets y'all know that they were looking at a variation. Now remember, they got Astrazeneca, Johnson and Johnson, Pfizer, and I think they did use, they did use Moderna. So as we look at the results for confirmed cases, probable and possible, you see the total numbers there. All right. And it tells us that the confirmed cases by sequencing of genotype, and the deletions and all these things down here, I don't want to get too much into that, into what this is saying, but this is what we're looking at as far as the cases. So we got to move on forward. So here you go. Hospitalizations. All right. Descriptive epidemiology of severe outcomes of Omicron in England. So to monitor the severe outcomes of Omicron infections, Omicron cases are linked to the NHS data on presentation to emergency care and to UKHSA data on deaths following confirmed COVID-19 test results. Hospitalizations was defined as attendance to emergency care, which resulted in admission of transfer or died in emergency care. And the Omicron specimen date was between 14 days prior to attendance and 1 day after attendance. Using data up until the 29th of December, a total of 815 individuals with laboratory confirmed sequencing genotyping SGTF, Omicron had been admitted or transferred from emergency departments, which goes back to figure 1. Of these, 260, 31.9% admissions were in London. The age range of admitted individuals was 0 to 100 years old, with a median of 45.5 years of age. 496, which was 60%, were aged 40 years old. 30.8% was aged 70 years or more. 50% of the Omicron hospitalizations occurred in people whose self-reported ethnicity as white, British, and 22% among people whom self-reported ethnicity is unknown or missing. We'll see that in table 2. So a total of 57 people had been reported to have died within 28 days of Omicron COVID diagnosis up to the 29th of December. The median time from Omicron specimen date to death was 5 days. They had a range of 0 to 14 days, and the average death was 5 days. The age of those dying ranged from 41 years old to 99 years old. So there you have it, right? And here is, let me zoom out a little bit. All right, and here is figure 1 data again. And as you can see, This is Omicron cases being admitted or transferred to hospital at the end of presentation to emergency care as of the 29th of December. So you had the cases admitted or transferred, confirmed, probable, and possible. And then you have the dates from the 25th to the 29th of the 25th of November to the 29th of December, going from left to right. You see high surveillance, well, you see a high increase or uptick in possible cases between the 20th of December and the 23rd, where would peak out to be the most, and then it would level down a little bit toward the end of the year. Now, they said the shaded area indicates dates most likely to be affected by data lags. So the 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, and 29th, there's a data lag. You see that purple right there in its context. That's going to be data lag. All right. I see we've been joined by more people. I guess I don't know if the foolishness had ended or y'all head hurt. Oh, Pure, I see it now. Pure Black says listening to them make his head hurt. Yeah, that's what you could expect, bro. So, moving on with the data, and I'm gonna go back zoom in. All right. So, table 2, which is the number of Omicron cases admitted or transferred to hospitals at the end of the presentation to emergency care by self-reported ethnicity in England. The data to December the 29th. Again, you're looking at Bangladesh. You see that Indian, other, Pakistani, Black African, Caribbean, Black, everything right here look Black. 102 Black people. Right here, mixed. Everybody else, the majority of them white, and 184 unknown. All right. So you heard me mention some stuff like that earlier. Now, number of Omicron cases admitted or transferred to the hospital at the end of presentation to emergency care by vaccination status in England. You see the count: 18 unlinked, not vaccinated 206, received one dose 1, received one dose 20 after 21 days 49, second dose 14 below 14 days 352. So what people will do is they'll see this and think that this 43% here, they are fully vaccinated. No, they're not. They have not met the 14-day threshold, below 14 days. Greater than and less than. You're greater than and less than. Third, less than 14 days, 189. When interpreting the table 3, it should be understood that in a population with high vaccine coverage, the majority of cases will occur in vaccinated individuals. You see how they slid this in here for y'all? Just so they can kill the pseudo. When interpreting table 3, it should be understood, this is table 3 right here. It should be understood that in a high population, in a population with high vaccine coverage, the majority of cases will occur in vaccinated individuals. In comparison to the vaccination uptake in England, there are higher proportions of cases in unvaccinated individuals and lower proportions who have received their third dose or booster. Vaccine effectiveness cannot be inferred from this table, and vaccine effectiveness is described in section 3 below. So we're going to get into that square business, as Chavez would say. Uh-oh. Y'all leave or something? Okay. Now, so the risk of hospitalization in England. The assessment of risk of hospitalization, admission, and emergency care attendance is undertaken by the University of Cambridge MRC Biostatistics Unit in collaboration with the UKHSA. Look, I appreciate y'all tuning in, man, but I know it's more entertaining to listen to them argue. You know what I'm saying? Over some stuff that they don't really study. Now, it's a handicap conversation. Okay. I don't know if you're gonna learn anything, but I appreciate y'all being here. But I'm just saying, we gonna all 2022 is a different meat. Like we gonna have to iron that all the way out. And I've been pushing for ironing out so that people can be more scholastic, and when they hit the live button, they can be more of an influence in helping educate people to advance knowledge. You can't be science enthusiasts and science advocates and not put yourself in a position to advance science. If you're going to be proponents of that, then you have to adhere to proper research methodology, and you have to get into all the source material, not just a source. So I'm turning up on y'all in 22. I'm gonna piss more people. I promise you, I'm gonna piss more people off. Ben, I know you're listening. I apologize, but I gotta bring out the, you know what I'm saying? You told me to, but I gotta bring them out. This assessment was based on a record linkage of sequence to genotype, probable and possible Omicron cases and Delta cases. All right. So remember, there's 500,000 people, all right, that they use this testing type. We said this earlier for those of you who joined us late. There's about, we're dealing with 528,000 Omicron cases. 573,000 Delta cases occurred from the 22nd of November to the 26th of December. So there's a total of 3,019 Omicron cases, and 13,579 Delta cases were admitted or presented to emergency care within 14 days of specimen date. Stratified Cox proportional hazard regression was used to assess the risk of presentation to emergency care or hospitalization. Admission with Omicron was approximately half of that of Delta. Remember, we said this earlier in the study that we knew that Omicron was half of Delta. They gave us this data early on. So the risk of being admitted to the hospital for Omicron cases was lower for those who had received 2 doses of a vaccine compared to those who had not received any vaccination. The risk of being admitted to the hospital for Omicron cases was lower still among those who had received 3 doses. Remember that 81% lower. Now, the adjusted hazard ratio for hospital admission within 14 days of a positive test for a given variant is below. You had a vaccine status, you have the Omicron HR hospital hazardous rate, here, and then you have the Delta hazardous rate here. All right, and as you can see, first dose, second dose, third dose. The numbers look a little bit different, but let's see what these numbers are saying overall. Even though I've already taken a rabbit out the hat, I'm still going to continue to progress in the conversation with this particular study. Now, these analyses were not adjusted for comorbidities of the cases, and furthermore, they do not represent in hospital severity, which will further take time to assess. Despite adjusting for calendar date, there may still be reporting delays affect completeness of hospital events. Preliminary sub-analysis estimated a lower risk of hospitalizations among Omicron cases in school-age children between 5 to 17 compared to Delta in the same age group. It is important to highlight that these lower risks do not necessarily imply reduced hospital burden over the current epidemic wave, given the higher growth rate and immune evasion observed with Omicron. So the vaccine effectiveness. A test negative case control design was used to estimate vaccine effectiveness against symptomatic COVID-19 with Omicron variant compared to Delta. Here, vaccination rates in PCR positive cases are compared to vaccination rates in those who test negative. Individuals who reported symptoms and tested in Pillar 2 between the 27th of November and the 24th of December were included in this analysis. The report's recent foreign travel were excluded. Remember, the last couple of studies that we've been looking at, they've been excluding travel. All right. Now, this is due to differences in exposure risk and possible misclassification of vaccination status in the group. Cases were defined as Omicron variant or Delta variant based on whole genome sequencing. People ask, so how do they know if it's Delta, or how do they know if it's Omicron? The genome sequencing. When they swab you out, or whatever the test may be, right? They can determine that when they sequence that immediately. They're going to know. Now, the Omicron variant has been associated with a negative S gene target result on the PCR testing with a TechPath assay, whereas with the Delta variant, the S gene target is almost always positive. Vaccine effectiveness was estimated by a period of a 2 and 3 dose regimen. The results are presented for 18 plus years old. Pillar 2 symptomatic confirmed cases were linked to emergency care data set to identify admissions via emergency from care from 0 to 14 days after a positive test. They excluded admissions due to injuries. Cox survival analysis was then used to estimate the risk of hospital admission by vaccination status. Due to the small numbers of vaccine brands are considered together, adjustments were made for age, gender, previous test, region, ethnicity, clinically extremely vulnerable status, risk group status, and period. So to estimate vaccine effectiveness against hospitalization, the odds ratio, OR, for symptomatic disease was multiplied by the hazardous rate for hospitalizations among symptomatic cases. So the vaccine effectiveness for hospitalization, and this is the formula: vaccine effectiveness for hospitalization equals 1 OR. Remember, odds ratio for symptomatic disease times hazard ratio hospitalization. This dude is about to make me go crazy on him. Now, the symptomatic disease test negative cases control analysis include 169,000 Delta cases and 204,000 Omicron cases. Vaccine effectiveness against symptomatic disease by period after dose 2 and 3 is shown in figure 2 for those who receive a primary course of Astrazeneca. Yeah, this is what they're using: Pfizer, Moderna. So here's what we're going to take a look at. This is AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Moderna. Now, the effectiveness of booster doses for Pfizer and Moderna are shown for AstraZeneca and Pfizer primary courses. In all periods, effectiveness was lower for Omicron compared to Delta. Among those who had received 2 doses of AstraZeneca, there was no effect against Omicron from 20 weeks after the second dose. Among those who had received 2 doses of Pfizer or Moderna, effectiveness dropped from around 65 to 70% down to 10% by 20 weeks after the second dose. 2 to 4 weeks after a booster dose, vaccine effectiveness ranged from 65 to 75, dropping to 55 to 70 at 5 to 9 weeks, and 40 to 50% from 10 plus weeks after a booster. I'm going to clean all of that up because I know that's confusing for a lot of y'all. So here we go. Here's the vaccine effectiveness against symptomatic disease for the period listed below. And in the columns, we're going to have your dose regimens: AstraZeneca, Pfizer, and Moderna. Column 1, 2-dose regimen of AstraZeneca. The one in the middle is Pfizer, and the one on the end is Moderna. How do you know this? It is because BNT 162 is Pfizer. mRNA 1273 is Moderna. If you don't know the name in the chat OX1, that's AstraZeneca all day. Those were the ancestral names for the vaccines before there was a vaccination change. Therefore, we see what we see. Now, Delta is going to be in the black boxes. That's Delta. This Omicron. So they got the circles for Omicron, the squares for Delta. All right. Same thing. 2-dose regimen, all 3 vaccine statuses. The vaccine effectiveness, as you can see. So in case you're not paying attention to it, this is the percentage of vaccination cases. You got your days and stuff down here at the bottom. I mean, the weeks. Sorry, I said days. The weeks down at the bottom. So, it's 20% here. A little bit better than that. Then you see a droppage. This is AstraZeneca. Pfizer. You see the vaccines perform better against Delta. It's mainly because the vaccines have already been targeted to deal with Delta, but we ain't talking about that right now. So Pfizer, you see above 60 all the way across, but right at about 60. So you see it start low and then increase and then decline as the weeks go. Moderna, you see, is above 60 and it climbs up in that 2 to 4 gap, and then it gets back down to about 60. So you can see Moderna, as the weeks go, perform better than Pfizer ultimately. Now, you're going to continue to see the trend of a lesser vaccine going from left to a better vaccine going from left to right. All right. Remember, the squares are Delta, the circles are Omicron. 60% Astrazeneca, and it just gets worse. All right, as the weeks go. For Pfizer, it's above 60. All right. And then it gets below 60, not hitting 40, but about that 45 to 50% range as the weeks go. Moderna's vaccine gets almost to 80% with Omicron and stay about 70% and between 65 and 70%. In the initial onset of the vaccine rollout, they were looking for vaccines to be 50% infectious against the spread of infectious disease, hospitalization, and death. These vaccines on the right are doing those things. This vaccine affecting this guy below 20, Astrazeneca. So I wouldn't dare want to deal with that particular vaccine. As stated, I figured a couple of y'all will fall out when I get into this data. Yeah. But I appreciate the few of y'all that's still rocking. That's love. All right. So here go to Moderna. All right. Vaccine effectiveness for C. You see Omicron. You see some dropping, and then you see some spans that's going on. Now, this is showing results for hospitalization are shown in table 5 and 6. We'll get into that in just a second. And one dose of the vaccine was associated with 35% reduced risk of hospitalization among symptomatic cases with Omicron variant 2. Doses with a 67% reduction rate up to 24 weeks after the second dose, and a 51% reduced risk 25 or more after the second dose. And the third dose was associated with 68% reduced risk of hospitalization. So all in all, at each level, 2 doses going through, depending on when you get those doses, it's over 50% reduction in hospitalization. All right. When combined with vaccine effectiveness against symptomatic disease, this was equivalent to vaccine effectiveness against hospitalization, 52% after one dose, 72% after the second dose till 24 weeks, and then it would drop around 52%, and then at 25 weeks after dose 2, and 88% 2 weeks after a booster. So if you're far out from you've had both doses and you're 25 plus weeks from your last shot, they're saying that you got a 52% chance, which is the vaccine effectiveness is, I don't know why I said chance, but the vaccine effectiveness is 52%. But you get a booster, and 2 weeks after your booster dose, your protection goes up to 88%. All right. And then you have the hazard ratios against hospitalization with Omicron and Delta, all brands, dose 1, 2, 2, 3. Remember, Pfizer and Moderna are 2 dose, and AstraZeneca is even 2 dose, but against both, against the hazard ratios against hospitalizations, you can see them as follows. Now, when this third shot comes into play, remember, this is 2 weeks after the third dose. So when you're looking at this data set going here, you can properly understand it. It's a lot of numbers and a lot of confusing things because you're like, man, just get to the nitty gritty. And I'm trying to, but I'm doing it the long way. And I apologize for those of y'all who still tuned in, man. I totally understand what's going on tonight. I don't know why I wasn't never paying attention to it. I was watching Venom 2, and then I watched the rest of the Baylor and Ole Miss game, and then I was like, oh shoot, I got this thing I need to read. Then I read it, and then I said, you know what, I'm gonna go live. I'm gonna talk about it. So here it is right here. So as I was watching the game, you know what I'm saying, it's going through like that. So these estimates suggest that the vaccine effectiveness against symptomatic disease with the Omicron variant is significantly lower than compared with Delta variant and wanes rapidly. Nevertheless, protection against hospitalization is much greater than than that against symptomatic disease. Okay, in particular after a booster dose, where vaccine effectiveness against hospitalization is close to 90%. Further data is needed to estimate the duration of protection against hospitalization. Experience with previous variants suggests that this will be sustained longer than protection against symptomatic disease. So you have two fights. You have a fight against hospitalizations, and you got a fight against uh, symptomatic disease. The vaccine's jobs, the number that we're looking for is to prevent the spread of infectious disease and keep our behinds out of the hospitals. Ultimately, that's what we want vaccines to do. And of course, you do those things, you prevent death. So even against Omicron, for those of us with a 2-dose regimen of any vaccine, 20 plus 24 weeks out, we're still over that threshold of uh, protection against hospitalization at least 52%, if not better than that. Okay. Now boosting it, you're gonna be in the 80s, but after 10 weeks, that 88 will dwindle. All right, so this right here for the next 3 pages has everything to do with sources, names, and all the unique things. So now I can get into what I need to get into. We didn't really go too far in depth on each page, which is cool. So 1-dose vaccine, there was a 26% reduction of risk of catching symptomatic COVID within 4 weeks of the first dose. 2 doses, there was an 18% reduction within 24 weeks of the second dose. 2-dose long-term, 2% reduction over 24 weeks. 3-dose, 63% reduction risk for 2 weeks. So most of the older people in the UK, they were given Astrazeneca. And in the US, we don't even deal with that, but we have Johnson & Johnson. Now, the findings appear to confirm the vaccination and boosters are effective against Omicron. Again, vaccinations and boosters are effective against Omicron, and that's what we're seeing here. The variant can do whatever it want to do, but the vaccines are effective. Now, it's not clear how long the booster protection will last. That's why they said 10 plus weeks. All right. And they also reported previously that the protection against symptomatic disease drops. That's what I just mentioned after that 10-week thresh. So you will see something, as an example, you'll see something like 70 to 45 or 50 or something like that, depending on which booster it is. If it's Pfizer, I think we've seen that with Pfizer, the booster being about 70-some%. All right. So all in all, this data is basically telling us based on these last couple of shots, this data is telling us that we stand to benefit from being vaccinated, and we stand to benefit from receiving a booster. How long that protection will last, they don't know, but against Omicron, that increase, that number that people are looking for, that protection against infection and things of that nature, that protection against infection, and of course hospitalizations increases very likely. I know I'm more than 25 weeks from my second dose. How many months is that? 6 months? Yeah. So my last dose was in what? I got April. I think it's April or something like that. Yeah, I'm more than 25. I'm 25 plus weeks out. So my protection could wane. I mean, probably is low, probably around 60%, maybe, uh, with where I am as far as my vaccine. But and I'm showing this chart for a reason, the effectiveness of my Moderna. But we still have unanswered questions. This is a good start. This is showing that, hey, for those of you who have received booster shots, you got some added protection. How long that lasts, that 10 plus weeks, we don't know for sure, but you have some added protection, and that's substantial. So I'm not going to tell you not to get a booster. Um, when more data, not if, but when more data presents itself to us and it gets into T cell memory and how long, people that's 25 plus out and they get into that stuff, that's going to help us be able to answer more questions because then it's going to help set up. I believe after all of this stuff, they should be getting to a point of potentially a vaccine schedule. Maybe, I don't know. They probably would need more data, and I'm just under the assumption of what this can do. But studies like this help us be able to answer those questions. Well, not I'm saying it like I'm just in the lab, but studies like this help them answer questions on how creating a vaccine schedule will be beneficial to all Americans. Studies like this is good for us to make a clear decision on, hey, do I really need to get boosted or not even just get boosted, but how much protection am I actually afforded if I was previously vaccinated at a period beyond 25 plus weeks. So how susceptible would I be of contracting SARS-CoV-2? Right? Because this whole big deal now is about infection, not the disease. And remember, we talked about that earlier in when we were dealing with the intro to immunology. When we were dealing with that, in chapter 2, it referred to infection and disease. It was clearly separating those. And that's the issue that many people are having right now is that the hell with the disease, they think the infection is the disease. And we got to make a clear distinction of that. But we also have to see, are you being hospitalized? Are you developing symptoms? How long are those symptoms lasting? How contagious are you? If the contagion period is only 2 to 3 days and you're less infectious and you recover and clear the virus within 3 days or 5 days, or between that 3 to 5 day threshold, then hey, we're cooking with grits here in the vaccinated. Now it's versus the unvaccinated that may be the overall true issue, or which may be a problem for most. See what I'm saying? So, but if you experience any symptoms, man, you just need to go get tested, just straight up. Throat hurting, bad cough, just go get tested. If you think you've been in the vicinity of people who may have tested positive and you was there for more than 45 minutes, you know what I'm saying? You definitely want to get tested. Um, we found out that with the Delta variant, it takes at least 45 minutes for you to contract the Delta variant if you're in a setting. So if you're indoors, it would your threshold for contracting Delta was 45. I think I haven't seen data to confirm it with Omicron. Uh, Not like I did with Delta. I was looking at some epidemiologist work, and I found it out. So let me see if I can find out that Omicron. I don't need to know when it'll make you sick. I need to know the contraction, like with the Delta. How contagious Omicron, when it takes 10 to 15 minutes of exposure with someone closer to 6 feet to get infected. All right, so Delta was at least 45 minutes. And Omicron is 70 times faster than the ancestral variant. See, I knew Delta was 45 minutes because I was in the H-Town. I think I was in Houston when I read that. And let me get the source and see if we can pull it up, if I can pull it up for y'all. And we can deal with it. So they're dealing with the R naught. Omicron is an estimated R naught of 3.1 in the US, but currently it is as high as 4.8 in the United Kingdom, and it levels off at about 1 in South Africa. This is coming from the Washington Journal. What is it? Wall Street Journal. I say Washington. Wall Street Journal. And it says the contagion rate is 70 times faster than Delta variant in the airways. So hold on. Let me send this so I can pull it up on the screen. Yep. And we can walk through this a little bit, but golly, that's saying a lot, man. That's saying a lot. Oh yeah, let me put this on the screen too. What up, Zane? I'm telling y'all, man, you know what I'm saying? I appreciate y'all popping up, bro. I ain't got no Twitter, but this is the study that I was talking about by Eric Topol right there. Reduction in hospitalization, 88%. That's the highlight. And he continues in his Twitter to explain other things, but what's important is, you know, what he highlighted. So for those of you who have Twitter and all of that, you can kind of go in there and deal with what he's talking about. But that's his name, at Eric Topol. You can't mess that up. Topol. You can't mess that up at all. Pure, you ain't went back over there, boy. You done had enough noise for this weekend. You been over there on bias. You done listen to them women cuss each other out. Boy, you done had an earful. Pure just said, man, enough of this. He just want to sit back, smoke, and learn something. All right. So how contagious is Omicron? What does that mean for you? Okay. So this is the article that I was reading for, published by I don't even think I can get in there. And I ain't about to register. But this is the source, and I'm gonna put it in the chat. Some of y'all might be already registered to this freaking place. Why it take me to manual decodage? But I'm gonna give it to y'all again because of course I got bypassed it on my phone. But that's the source right there that I just put in the chat. And just so I can source up on everybody with the R naught to let y'all know that I wasn't playing. So it says the bottom paragraph, discard the conventional wisdom that it takes 10 to 15 minutes of exposure with someone closer than 6 feet to get infected. Time is linear rather than a firm cutoff, 15 minutes. Okay, and that's just telling you to test more often. It says if you are indoors, ventilation and vaccination reduce risk. If gathering indoors, try to meet with fully vaccinated people and keep gathering small, 10 or fewer people. It says simple steps to improve ventilation can help. Even opening the windows for 10 minutes every hour is beneficial. So if it's 10 to 15 minutes to contract this thing, man, it was 45 minutes with Delta. That will show the reason why we see a high infectivity number. Because it moves, I mean, it attacks faster. It's attacking faster. Sheesh. And just think, man, you're around people for an hour, 2 hours. You know what I'm saying? You're around your family members. You didn't ate. You know, when I went out to eat, shoot, I ate my food in like 15 minutes and then I put my mask back on. People thought I was crazy. Yep. But that's how I be, you know. That's how I be out here in these streets. You under dig? But what's going on, man? Oh, if Sheffrin think that I'm over here talking crazy about them, I haven't heard anything that Sheffrin presented. I haven't heard anything that Asar presented. I haven't heard anything Unc said. I haven't heard anything that Sosa said. I haven't heard anything that any of them have said. I have simply said this, that until the pseudo killers um until the pseudo killers understand that if you're going to be science advocates and science enthusiasts, until they understand this, that they have to demonstrate proper research methodology and a command for a subject matter, until they do that, they're useless. They are useless. And they are not um, advocates of science, because science is a tool used to promote, to advance knowledge, right? And you got to know the methods. So it requires you to know and to do. I ain't said nothing beyond the things that I've already said to them to their face, that I've been trying to be proponents for every time I've been on the channel, is that I really wish that they would have some type of command for some of these subjects that they like to talk about and deal with that. But I haven't talked about them. I said until then, just listening to them is a waste of time. It's baseless. But I didn't disrespect them. I ain't talked about them. I just said what I said just then because you just basically said that he think that I'm over here talking about him. I ain't said nothing about what they said with us all. I said it's a waste of time because I don't think they have a command for the subject. They don't study enough. You can't and I try to get Unc to see this, but Unc can't make an argument for somebody that talks about the Uncs being people that has nothing to do with the mapping of the universe. You have to stick to the subject. When you're making an argument about something, even when you're discrediting the author, even in your attempt to discredit the author and to minimize his work, you have to there's still work that has to be done. There's still work have to be done. Not only do you have to know the author, but you have to stay within the basis of the argument. You can't go outside the argument to try to discredit them. You discredit the author based on the claim or based on the work. Well, if they let Nile Valley on the show, that's when you gotta go. If Nile Valley on the show, you gotta go. But but no, in all honesty and in all fairness, man, um, it's 2022. Like, what are we doing? Sheffrin is too smart. Sosa is too smart. Corey is too smart. Vance, CK, um, Terry, um, God dang it, why I keep on forgetting this now? Cedric and that's 8 people, right? That's 8 of them. Okay, it's 8 of them. You mean to tell me between 8 people that y'all seriously can't study certain subjects, meet once a week or twice a week, uh, debate, argue, smash, or hash out these differences, and then moving forward? It's eight of y'all. Instead, y'all opt out of, and this is the problem. Y'all opt out of. Now I'm talking about y'all. You opt out of knowing, right? Which is what science requires you to do. It requires you to know, to not know, and then base your arguments on. Well, I ain't got to know this. I know about Homo sapiens sapien. That demeans the worldview of these people that we're talking about. So at what level exactly? Fundamentals. And that's what I'm saying. So like, all right, I'm gonna say this. I don't want to talk about them, but I'm gonna talk about this is the problem that Unc has. He knows what to do and how to do it, yet he chooses not to because he's become too relaxed to do certain things that he knows he's required to do in order to hash out arguments. So he's shooting from the hip too much. We know it ain't a reading problem for Unc because he'll get up in the morning and read in the morning time. So we know that's not the case. It's him being lazy, scholastically lazy. Oh yeah, I did forget Kent. My bad. But yeah, Kent he be in and out. You know what I'm saying? And I love Kent. He be in and out, but you know, I'm just my problem is that we have to take subject matters more serious if we're going to get into it. But the integrity has to be there. And that's why I've been studying that scientific integrity book, because if we're trying to adhere to something and we're trying to be proponents of something, then we need to know how serious we should be handling these matters when it comes to scholarship. It's just a fact. Listen, it's of course they're gonna have a much bigger audience because they're not methodical. And I'm not telling them to be methodical. I'm just asking that they have a command for the subject matter, and then they can talk their shit because they got a command for the subject matter. Like, yeah, man, I was studying that the other day and blah blah. That's been my whole proponent. Like, bro, like push the envelope. Like for real. Push the envelope. You got people that have never heard some of these conversations that we've had on the Mossy Warrior Clan, or Sars had on his channel, and yet they're looking for balance. So they're looking to find information from, for instance, they're looking to find information from the Mossy Warrior Clan, right? People are looking for, and I'm not saying y'all might be those. So let's say you got a group of people that never heard something before. They hear it on another channel. So then they might be inclined to ask questions on a SAR Q&A, or hop on a panel on a pseudo killers and ask questions on a pseudo killers. Or they might be listening to the Mossy if they do, and they might put it in the Mossy chat. And then we have to deal with those things like that, right? But if no one is actually familiar with it, let's not judge it. And let's just say, well, I don't know right now. I'm hearing what he's saying. I'm hearing what they're saying, but I don't know right now. I tell y'all what I can do. Give me a couple of days. Let me see what was really being said. Give me some time to, review the sources and source critique or whatever I need to do. And then I'm gonna come back live, and we can come back live and we can discuss it. Instead of discussing it on the fly, unprepared, let's prepare ourselves to have that discussion so that when we do have it, we can have it in context, and we can have it where we can advance it further. So if whoever we critique has an issue, if they do have an issue, then it can be hashed out scholastically where we can then, okay, so here's the body of work that I got, that I read dealing with the subject matter. You can review that, and vice versa. Like, that takes the arguing out of it, and then that helps us be more scientific. Scientists argue all the time. They argue all the time. They have issues. Vince and lately, if you haven't noticed, for those of us who watch Vince Rack and Yellow and Amy, right? If you listen to them when they have their discussions, they be arguing live, but we don't know it because their voices don't really change. Well, Amy's does, but their demeanor doesn't change. There's no negative points. It's just some bickering back and forth about one thing in particular. I mean, but we ain't gotta be them, and I'm not saying that we can't be them. Like, we can turn up a little bit because we know people love to hear us turn up. That's why I cuss Unc out all the time, because I know people love to hear me cuss Unc out. You know what I'm saying? And then it be frustrating him, and then I know, I know who I'm arguing with. I know who I'm arguing with. This is the difference. Like, people think they know me. They don't really know me. But I know Unc. I've studied Unc. You see what I'm saying? Like, I literally for years studied Unc, watched his demeanor, watched how he debated information, watched how he always asked for sources in certain areas so that he can critique the source, know his methodology for critiquing the source, and then trying to qualify it to see if it even can be inserted into the conversation. Like, I know every chess move he got. So I can do little things to agitate him because I've studied him for so long. I can get under his skin quicker. Unc used to get under everybody's skin that he actually had conversations with because he knew how to push their buttons. That'll get them off their dean or off their square. And then next thing you know, he go in for the checkmate. Depending on what the subject matter is, depends on how long he might want to do it. Sometimes Unc like to play along for hours. And sometimes he might go in for the kill. But I learned from Wu Jiawu and his method and how he approached things and how he critiques sources and how he argues points and how he does certain things to look, just take the legs from up under the person off the gate. Take the legs. Don't give it life. Let's not drag this out for 2 hours. Let's go in for the instant kill. Same thing with a saw. See, if you claim to be into this field of science and proper research methodology and moving information forward and things like that, then you would understand wholeheartedly that following the Amin Ra squad, they're gonna teach you how to handle your business, because that's what they've been doing. Demonstration beats conversation. They continue to do those things and they haven't wavered or changed from that. So anytime they're inserted into a particular argument or a conversation, it's the same methods. You know what to expect. You know what to expect. So you can't really just shun all of that. You absorb those things. You absorb them, and then you you start to take a different approach towards your work when you're having these conversations with people. And it's just the truth of the matter. That's what it is for me anyway. But if Sheffrin think that I'm over here talking about him, he's absolutely wrong. I just started saying something when Pure Black said something, but I did speak on the fact that I don't know what the hell y'all were talking about. I just know that you don't know how to demonstrate. That ain't negative. And I also said that if you're going to be proponents for science, that you got to have some type of methodology and you need to know how to advance the conversation. That wasn't talking about y'all. So if that's personal or if you feel some type of way about it, then I apologize to you. That's all I could give you. But I ain't gonna waste my time. I felt like what y'all was talking about was a waste of time because I don't think that anyone is prepared enough to actually have that conversation about or include Africa in your discussions when your sentiments are at times are very un-African. Remember, the British are heroes, and and certain things that y'all have done that I got clips for from the past to show that y'all either did not have a command for the subject matter, or it was pretty much barbershop talk. You would just come up with something, or piggyback or veggie back or horseback off a topic from another channel, and have an emotional rant or express your opinions about it on your platform. Yeah, well, people with that know how to properly critique sources, who actually know how to utilize research methodology, and who write books and things of that nature and take those approaches, they're going to be considered boring. A SARS boring. Of course, I'm boring. Kobe boring. The Mossy, all of our team, we boring. Yeah, ain't no wrong with the barbershop talk. The barbershop talk caused a lot of arguments though, because that's how we be in a barbershop, especially when we talking about sports. And your barber is a Ravens fan, and you a Titans fan, and this is at the time with Eddie George and Steve McNair and them, and Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and all of them there. Y'all gonna argue. That's an argument every time you come get your hair cut. All day long, because you go, if you didn't see them in the regular season, you're gonna see them in the playoffs. So it's an argument all day long. Or it's just like your college teams. If for instance, uh if you're an Alabama fan and they playing Auburn as an example, that's an argument all day long too. It's just gonna happen. Or if you're a Florida State fan and a Miami fan, it's just gonna go down. What you mean by that? You mind elaborating on? But what we set out to do is, some of us set out to create our YouTube channels to be educational, to be that difference. Now, we're not asking the pseudo killers to be teachers. We're asking them to adhere to the scientific method. If you are a science enthusiast and a proponent or a voice for science, and you feel like science answers all the questions, which it can't, and Neil deGrasse Tyson will tell you that in his medieval science show, they even say that science doesn't answer all the questions. But if someone thinks that science answers all the questions, then you need to be able to demonstrate that when a time comes. Because if you believe that uh, before the 19th century people didn't have science, then it's gonna look a little weird. Or if you believe that these people's teachings is pseudoscience, then you have to go in and show in their teachings where they made the claim for it to be scientific. That's how you have those conversations. Like, immediately, the first thing that I'm doing now, correlation is not claiming something to be something. So I'm gonna say that again. Correlation does not mean that you're saying something was, aka i.e. scientific. If you can't demonstrate it, then you shouldn't talk about it. That's why I said earlier, it would do the community uh, a better service if someone introduced the topic to people and they wanted to have a conversation about it, to just do your due diligence to research what it is that you want to talk about, get familiar with it, have your private bills about it. And then when people are on one accord and you have a command for that which you don't know, then you bring that information forward. And then when you're critiquing it prepared, not unprepared. And a lot of the conversations that has been projected from that body of people has been unpreparedness. So it's been projections, objections, and feelings and emotions, and not accurate information. It's too much absurdity being expressed and not enough analytics. Yeah. Well, you have to think about it. A portion, like for instance, I believe there was 140 people over there in the chat at one time. Out of 140 people, 100 of those people don't care nothing about the analytics. They care more about the arguing, the disagreeing, than they do the actual body of knowledge and the actual points being made. I can tell you that because that's what they're used to. It's battle rap. Some people don't even, some people don't even, they there because they either personality worship, or, and I'm not saying this as a negative thing. When I say personality worship, they like a group of guys that have the same set beliefs and mindset as them. And then there's a small group of those people who are there to hear bar for bar, the punchlines and all, who can hear the points being made and extract those and saying, hey, you're proving a SAR point, or hey, you're proving Unk point in this in this conversation. You see what I'm saying? And another example of that is this. And I think I did, when I did go over there and see 140 people, I saw a comment made by Sosa where Sosa was asking for some data, but I don't understand how people can ask for something that they are not prepared to give. Like if and I'm talking about y'all now, if you're listening, if you're asking people to source up or shut up, that's the requirement for everybody on the panel. And everybody on the panel should be able to source up and demonstrate. That's what I'm asking for. And right, it ain't no echo chamber. I'm asking if source up and shut up is the philosophy of y'all, then everybody on your team should be able to source up and demonstrate that. Not ask me for a source, and then you never show a source and demonstrate command for that source. But you should be able to do what you're asking other people to do. And not everybody can do that. They want to talk around those things and regurgitate other experts on subject matters, but really never have a command for it. And you accidentally get yourself into conversations that you will never be prepared to argue wholeheartedly. And the notion of this whole thing about echo chambers is bullshit. That's what people say when they're unprepared. All right, so okay. If you haven't noticed by now that when people make claims, right? When people make claims, what did I do in my book? Yeah. What did I do in my book? I didn't make a claim, but I dealt with the claim. I'm prepared to deal with the claim. So if someone says something about vaccines or something like that, I'm prepared to deal with the claim. So if someone, they ask for a source, the person sources up, and then they just try to critique that person's source, you can do that, but you're just critiquing the source that they put up. So it leaves the notion of dying at your source to be the only way to skin a cat. That's not the only way to do it. They can put their source up. We can critique that source, but I'm gonna bring you a source that's gonna tell you why your source is inaccurate. I'm going beyond the surface level, but not everybody's gonna be able to do that, and I don't expect them to do that. But they have to also be able to, at times, they have to go behind and pull out their research. If they're not subjected to demonstrating a command for the subject matter and showing their research, then every conversation you had over there is an echo chamber. And they the number one people that always talk about echo chambers. This ain't an echo chamber over here. Yes, it is. Because y'all never demonstrate. And y'all disagree in private. Every group disagrees in private. And the only time, is something's up for argument is when it's against something. Because he don't care about going live and arguing that live hell. After y'all didn't argue with him, he done told us about it, and next thing you know, we either arguing with him or against y'all. So, but okay, let's use me for an example. Let me be a little bit more clear. When I talked about the Congo teachings and the Big Bang, did I make a claim in any video? When I talked about the Congo teachings and the Big Bang, did I make a claim in any of those videos? Very true, Zane. There's a way that we actually can do this thing and people can actually still, like, they can still do what they do, but if they got a command for what they're doing, it's just that much better. That's what I'm saying. Like, they still can do what they do, but if they have a command for a subject matter and they can demonstrate that command and they can show that, they on the money. But if you now, I thank y'all for answering the question. Now, if you listen to dear brother Unc will have you believe that I made a claim. And that's why it's best for me in particular, to not go in circles and not deal with that at all. So I just have to request. So I'm making my 2022 requests. And I'm just staying away from all of that because it's not me. So no, Sheffrin, I wasn't talking about y'all, bro. And I don't do everything right either. You know what I'm saying? I'm still working on doing certain things right on my side. But now, and I don't mind critique. I have written books so that people could critique me and could challenge my work. Like, straight up. Like, I'm not afraid of that. I get critiqued all the time. I get critiqued in private. I don't mind a public critique. I don't mind the scrutiny of it all. See, this is the difference between me and other people though. If I make a mistake, um, whether public or private, I'm not afraid to make it. You know what I'm saying? I learn from it. But I also learn from other people's mistakes. And I also pay close attention to when I see other people making mistakes. And then I also pay close attention to when I know people are hiding behind things and they're afraid to stand on their own. And there ain't no shot at nobody. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no shot at nobody. I'm just telling you what I know. I know some people can't stand on their own. That's all I'm saying. But I really don't even know what's going on over there. so I can't talk about them. I didn't go live to talk about y'all. I don't even care. Yeah, you can say there was a shot if you want to. I mean, it's the truth. It wasn't no shot. It was a fact. It wasn't no, I mean, 2022. I'm telling you. But I don't want nobody saying. I don't want nobody saying the Mossy saying or the Kofi Pie research team is saying. I want people to say Sean said. I want you to. I ain't asking you to separate me from the Mossy, and I'm not asking you to separate me from the Kofi Pie research team or the SESU. But I want you to be able to say, Sean said, this is what Sean said. Not this is what the Mossy is saying, or what the Mossy Warrior Clan is saying. No, that's not what the Mossy Warrior Clan is saying. It is, well, this is what Sean said on, if I said it on the Mossy Warrior Clan, or if I said it on Science with Sean, or if I said it on Kofi Pie research team. It is Sean said. Don't include my brothers in that, because it may not even be their perspective or what he says point of view in the chat. They may not agree with me at all. We might argue about it after the live or whatnot. But you have to understand that this is what Sean said. Sean said this. Yeah, because in 2022, I might do something that my brothers don't agree with, but I might not do it on those platforms. I might do it right here, and then you fully will understand why I'm asking you to separate that, because I don't want them affiliated with something that I might say or do when they ain't got nothing to do with it. And then I don't need anyone to be going back to them and saying, so this how y'all feel. No, that's not. This is how Sean feels. Sean can stand on his own. And it's not a diss or a shot at anybody. It's just it is. It is what it is. If I'm in enemy territory, I can stand on my own. If I'm out of bounds and y'all right there and y'all feel like y'all want to fight, then y'all just jump out there and start swinging. And I guarantee you, and some of y'all going some of y'all gonna end up with some black eyes and some busted lips and noses. It ain't just gonna be Sean. And it's gonna get ugly because you better have some wind. Most people can't fight but for 2 minutes. But nah, I'm saying that. I'm saying that to say, man, it's, you know what I'm saying, how I was raised, how I was grew up, how people come. It is what it is. Like, that's me. I don't want no part of y'all trying to bring people into anything that I say or do. It's Sean, man. It's me. You know I said it. You know my name. Ain't nobody fighting, bro. But that's just the reality of everything that I had to say. I have no reason to talk about people that I don't know nothing. I don't know what's going on with y'all. You know what I'm saying? I don't know who said what when they said it or none of that. I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't even gonna be watching it. Unc probably gonna call me and ask me if I listened to it, did I hear what Asar said or what I think about the discussion. I ain't gonna lie to you, Unc. I ain't listen to it. I know you're gonna ask me, and I'm telling you right now, I ain't listened to it. I ain't heard not one thing. Not one. You have to ask everybody else, bro. But I did get through this particular report regarding Omicron information, which I felt was useful. There's a lot of people being infected. There's a lot of people that can't distinguish infection versus disease, which one is more important. And that's the way the conversation go swing moving forward. We got to deal with it. We got to deal with it and do it the right way. I want to get back to the science. Really, everything else is obsolete. Well, that's all we do over here on our channels. We just kick the science. I can't. That's what I'm saying. I can't speak for those other channels. Like we deal with the science. We have to demonstrate that. Like when you see a presentation done, there's a methodology that is required for you to present that information to people. When you're writing a book, there's a method for that. When you're answering questions from people, there's a method for that. Like we try to demonstrate that which we require from other people. I can't ask you to do something and then I am unprepared to do the same thing in return. Like for instance, and I'm gonna give you an example of this. Now, Sheffrin, I'm about to talk about you, since you think I was talking about you anyway. When you said that they had slave markets in Africa before Islam and before Christianity, you never sourced up, but you said it, and you said it on more than one occasion. When you said that the British were heroes because they, quote unquote, stopped the ships from leaving Africa, or played the whole abolishing slave trade game while slavery still existed on the British continent, you never demonstrated that. So I'm just giving you examples. Corey, I can bring you into the fold, and Sosa, I can bring you into the fold too, since y'all said that I was talking about y'all and I wasn't. But since you said something, you still have 3 claims out there that you have not been able to demonstrate and prove, and your own audience has let you get away with that. And even some people in the chat has let Sheffrin get away with that. He hasn't been held in high regard to those claims. So my question would be, how can he get away with that? Who lets him off the hook for those claims? We didn't forget. But you see how I said Sheffrin, I separated the pseudo killers, right? And I said Sheffrin because he's the one who made those claims, those assertions. And we never got the homework for that. Unc didn't press him. I'm going to say this again, Unc. You didn't press him. But when I brought up the Congo teachings, you was all for wanting to argue with me. But you never asked Sheffrin for a source on the British. You never asked them for a source on slave markets in Africa before Islam and Christianity. You kind of let that go out the wind. You didn't want to argue that all the way. You was arguing for Nzinga and the whole 9 yards, and you went through your little phases with that stuff, but you let him off the hook on a couple of his arguments. You see how I did that? Don't y'all think that that's important to know? That he introduced those things into the conversation and we never got any information from that? Exactly. Zane, they are adamant about they're adamant about those Europeans, but that's the only way that they can see the natural world. See, and I don't think many people could actually understand this. You remember the conversation that we had once before that was dealing with how things in Tennessee and Baltimore was different because people was making in Atlanta because and Sosa and Sheffrin are in predominantly black cities, right? So they see black males, politicians, black businesses, and then those of us that are not in black cities, right, we don't see it the same way. And I was trying to get them to understand that the worldview matters. Like your worldview is different from mine, so the things that you think is normal for you in Baltimore or in Atlanta is not normal for people in Chattanooga or Nashville. It's not normal. So you're projecting your worldview onto other people, which is a grave mistake because we don't see African American politicians and black businesses thriving like that around us on a day-to-day basis. We don't. And I don't know if any of y'all remember that, but I'm just bringing up some stuff to kind of hopefully jog y'all memory to let y'all know. But it is what it is. But nah, man, I don't talking about y'all. I don't care. He said all men Sutex see is Mexicans. Yes, exactly, Sutek. The slave market and the slave economist claim was the first claims made. And we never got any information for that ever. Yeah, and I figured they wouldn't acknowledge you on that. You see what I'm saying? But that's wrong though. They dragged out Queen and Zinga conversation, bro, for weeks. They didn't drug this whole Congo teachings out for a week. And tomorrow, you know what they gonna do a show on? I mean Monday, you know what they gonna do a show on? The Congo teachings again. I ain't even know they did an 8 hour show on the Congo, that whole thing the other day. I didn't know that. But nah, man, I don't want them to think that I'm talking about them, man. That ain't even that's the furthest thing from the truth. I only started mentioning y'all because Pure told me that you thought that I went live to talk about y'all, and that ain't the case. So when he said that, I decided to dedicate 20 minutes or however long to just kind of run down some things. But in all honesty, man, demonstration beats conversation. And if we don't have a command for a subject matter, man, it's best that we leave it alone until we study it and then we're able to come out and have a conversation about it and advance it. I really wish that for those of you who missed the bill earlier by Black Panther, go back and watch that. There's some powerful information in that presentation. And if you missed my bill earlier on the one that I did a little earlier on the Master Warrior Clan regarding the quantum mysticisms, I believe that's some useful information. Excuse me. I'm gonna tell you why I think that that's some useful information because the pseudo, the pseudo people, or not pseudo people, but the people who believe in the pseudoscience of those topics that I have in the title, if they watch the video in the earliest onset after I'm laughing with Ben, if they just listen to me, they're going to think that I'm on their side until I start reading the sources. And then from from the point that I start reading the sources all the way until it gets to the video, it doesn't look too good for those people. But initially, you know what I'm saying? Some people may agree with that. And I'm gonna tell you why, because somebody liked it, loved it on Facebook when I put the video in a pseudo group. They loved it. They have no idea what's in this video and how it's going to deflate all of their arguments, but yet they loved that post. And I guarantee you, if they started that video and start watching it, they're gonna be feeling it. They're gonna be feeling it. They might hear a little a little funny in my voice and all of that, but ultimately they're gonna be liking some of the things that I'm saying. But I did that on purpose for a reason. I simply set out to instigate that whole mysticism thing and promote it the way that I actually promoted it at the earliest onset of that video, to show people how people are, and then double back with, all right, let me read these sources, and then try to just disagree with the sources. But I knew when y'all saw that video, when y'all see the video, I knew then. I was like, man, when they see this video, it's a whole rap. When they see this video, dude just kill all of that quick. And I'm talking about he just killed a whole bunch of stuff methodically. And his production is A1 too. So I don't know whoever, however he did that, whoever helped him, his production was A1. And he went to the top pseudo channels where everybody in the community to be arguing with us all the time. That's where they go. And then they hide behind it because they don't want nobody to know that that's where they getting their information from. And then they call the white man the devil. They call the white man a lie. And they say all of those things about the white man. White man this, white man that. Yep. Sad. Sad. Look, man, I'm gonna let y'all go, man. I'm pretty sure, are they still alive? I just laughed in the Masa chat. I don't know why. I guess I don't know what that's about. Oh, because I said the pseudo killers thing. I find out what everybody was at. Yeah, man, them crystals hard. Oh, okay. Well, look, man, I'm gonna let y'all get over there with them, man. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all day. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, man. For real, y'all enjoy y'all evening. Take care.